And then I want to thank God for allowing me to be here. And I mean that, our creator, to discuss and fellowship and to trade off information. Because that's what we're going to do. We're going to trade off information. Right? But we have to recognize the all-powerful being that allows us to be here to do this. What we need to look at is that we all are a source of information. And this afternoon, I'm going to be asking all of us to participate. You see, the important thing about being a facilitator is I don't have to have an answer. All I got to do is ask a question and set up a situation and then pull it from your intelligence. And that's, I like that much better than the session I'm going to have this afternoon where I got to do all the talking. Okay? The important theme that's been assigned to us is to discuss the black male role in leadership in the various areas such as economies, social, cultural, educational, and political. What is our role, and where do we stand in taking our place? And I think I'd like to first start by asking someone to tell us why it's important in 1999 that we're looking at what the black male role is or should be in those areas that I just mentioned. Can someone kind of just start with that before I start describing situations and asking questions about those? I mean, why are we here? I mean, why is it important for you, after you leave this institution, to be involved in leadership at all? I mean, after all, you've got your own desires. You want to make money. You want to live high. You want to, you want to do the thing. So why is it important to talk about leadership? Yes, brother?
Well, taking into consideration how one ideology that's always pushed in the black male psyche is that, there's no black role models in the black community, there's no males in our homes, everything on those lines. If you can actually give the younger generation, the newer generation that's coming along, that's growing up right now, a couple of positive images, some viable and tangible people that they can say, yes, even though I see this person on the corner and he's doing wrong, I see this other person, he's doing right. If you can actually give him give him somebody to look up to, because taking into consideration that this generation, the generation before us, they had people like X, Garvey, King, they had leaders such as that. And the generation that's, well, I would say, our generation, it's true our generation, we have people like Superfly and the Mac, and that's our role models, that's what we saw, pimping females is like, that's the way to go, and all this, we had those ideologies in comparison to the last generation that had, some positive black leaders.
So you said basically that we need today role models for the youngers coming up, and that your function is that, okay, right? Okay, well, let me just pose a question. I'm 22, I'm 23, I'm kicking in, I'm getting out of school, I got my credentials, I've even gone to Harvard, and I'm getting ready to go to grad school at Yale, and I got my sights on a Berlin, Georgia position. Like I'm gonna be highlighted up there with the president someday, all right, or somebody, okay? I'm gonna have, $300 shirts, and I'm gonna be driving, with chauffeur limousine. Why should I have time to mess around with modeling right now? I mean, when I get up there, then they can see me, and then they'll, I won't be a pimp, I won't be a drug dealer. They'll see me on the tube, and I'll be a model. What's wrong with that? Yeah, bud.
Well, I want to respond to that really quick response. Role model to me, in my life, well, role modeling is a lifestyle. It's not a goal that once you achieve whatever, you see this goal and you achieve it. Oh, I'm this and that, and third, whatever. But it's a lifestyle.
So role modeling really is a way of one living, of values throughout the life. Blood? Okay. okay, okay. I like what he said. I like half what she said because, see, I won't forget where I came from when I got the $300 shirt and that Rolls Royce that broke. You know, when I get up there, I won't forget to drive back to the hood. What I'm saying is, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with me revisiting? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm trying to reach a little bit deeper in us. Yeah.
Well, it's important to assume that responsibility of reaching back. It's important to assume that responsibility of reaching back as soon as possible, because if we put it off, then the problem is only going to persist, and it's going to only advance the problem. So therefore, if we put it off, when we do feel as if we're in a position, it's kind of like the longer we put something off, the less likely you are to go back and finish unfinished business.
Right.
So the longer we put it off, the more and more that separation between us and the younger generation, that's the greater that separation is going to grow. And also, you may not have a younger generation to lead things if we keep putting it off. So therefore, we need to assume responsibility. And I know for me personally, sometimes kind of point of my side, which is a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure. I'm a man in the house, we have a single parent home with brothers, little brothers and nephews and nieces and that's me. You know, so sometimes it kind of point on my side because I want to go out. I don't drink, I don't smoke, nothing like that. But sometimes I really don't want to worry about the younger generation because I'm trying to establish my own. But I understand what my reality check is. When I look at them, that's just a younger manifestation of me. So in giving back to them, in taking a conscious effort as soon as possible to embellish their future, that will also embellish mine. Right? That's my sister's responsibility.
I like the key point that he just made, and I'm following him. The longer you're away from the hood, the harder it is to get back into the hood. You can drive to the hood, but you can't get back into the hood. I'm not putting down anybody that you talk about. I'm just learning because I know him, his frat brother. You know, we're about the same kind of thing. But, you know, if both of us have trouble going back to the hood where we came from, if we ain't been going back there every year and relating, okay? The longer he's right, the longer we're away from there, the harder it is. Yes, sir.
We need leaders to condition people as like conditioning. It's going back to sociological theory, why can't everybody be like me? Which is why the majority still go, the minority has their problems and it's their fault. A leader should be empathetic or empathic to the concerns of people he's trying to help. That way he won't be living or she won't be living a lie. I'm trying to figure out why, like my research paper, my outcome paper is attrition of African Americans in predominantly white institutions and colleges versus historically black. 82% of the African Americans are attending predominantly white colleges and universities, and 33% of them are actually graduating. And no one is realizing what's going on. It's like a cycle. They think that the historically black colleges, the books still aren't good enough, but the positive self-image is there for the students. It's lost in predominantly white colleges and universities, but no one is talking about it. The students are just showing a ripple effect. One attended the predominantly white college for a year and a half, flunked out, and they opened the door for the next one. So I was trying to end my paper with the use of mission statements, which is tradition. If the high school's counselors were to go to all high schools, whether it's black or white, and get a transcript of the students who have the Harrison range of C, there's a better chance that you can match the student with the particular institute that he or she needs just by matching the mission statement. Okay. And also the statistics of the retention programs that actually work. Then from there, once you feel good about yourself, you may not really need a leader, because everyone's a leader themselves. It's a hard question to answer because there's so many lives that's in between the leadership, and he's an influence.
But it's almost like chicken and egg. What you're describing, which comes first, chicken and egg. Okay. This is something that has been inborn, and I guess I'm about the oldest person in here. I'm only about 30, but I guess I'm about the oldest person in here. Okay. So I'll give you a little history, okay, that goes along with that. We have a saying that some of us believe that the white man's ice is colder than black man's ice. And we've had that historically back since the 17th century in terms of some of our concepts. Black universities can't produce great minds, but if you look at great minds that came up, that we've had, Martin Luther King, I go back, Frederick Douglass, we go back, we talking about some black minds that were great, that were impressive on the black institutions. We as a people have not learned to appreciate our own. We go in cycles, okay? That's the honest God truth. And the older men like me, who's only 30, we ain't passed it off to you younger guys, like we should, okay? Like a friend of mine will sit by the door, or we sat by the door, but we ain't passed off nothing to you, all right? That's what you're dealing with in the research. Now, I don't care how we measure it, whether we get one standard deviation or 5% error, I would tell you, like the old folks told us in the kitchen, we just believe some white ice is colder than black ice. And when you translate that, that's your job as young people to come out of here to be able to cross all class lines to establish that ice is ice. Understand? Ice is ice. It's all the same, got the same temperature. So we have to get our other brothers' minds together. You want to?
Yeah, first of all, I'm from Europe, West Africa.
Yep.
And my experience will become a little bit different. I haven't been here a long time. But if we look at the way the world is now, everything is interrelated. And the same issue that faces African Americans are also issue that started to go up in Africa itself in our generation now. Because in fact, like in Africa, most of our fathers and founded settlements were political, and here, I don't know, probably I would say kind of founded like to say previously, most older generation are passing the ideas down to the younger generation. And I remember a speaker that once said that you should be comfortable, very comfortable with where you are. Some people think that, well, if I have $1 million, my life is hard, that's fine. And we shouldn't look at it, well, say I'm well off, I'm all right. But then you look at other here, what happened in the community, or what happened in physical work and other things like that. So as when I was looking at role model people here, when he said, you first of all have to what yourself as a person, and who you are as a person, and then from there you can be able to relate to other people. So if you don't really love yourself, if you don't really respect yourself, you can be a role model for another person out there. So do things that not suitable for society and not suitable for the community.
That's true. We see that's the important part about our history. Let me ask you this, okay? I mean, most of you, have some idea of where you want to end up, because after this, going to this institution, I mean, whether you want to end up in the corporate world, you want to end up working for yourself, you want to end up teaching, you want to end up giving, what have you. Let's say that you now have the assignment in your life to make a decision as to which area you think is the most important for blacks in this country to develop leadership in. Which area would you pick and why? I mean, would you pick politics? Would you pick economics? Would you pick social? Would you pick cultural? Which area? If you only could pick one area, you could only pick one area that would really that you thought could make a difference. Which one would you start with? Huh? Okay, you say economics. Why? says, because in this country, it's a capitalistic society, which is true, okay? And money is power, which is true, okay? It's a type of power. There are other kind of powers, but money is power. This gentleman, who had their hand up over here? Yes? Well, let me get somebody else first. Somebody who had, yes, Madam.
When I say social issue, because first of all, we must understand who we are as a person and as a group of people. We must understand our roles. Because money can solve all our problems.
So you would start with social issues?
Yes, sir.
You would start with social issues. No money, you start with social issues. You start with money. You say, okay, all power, get social issue later. What about you?
Culture.
Culture.
Where you come from, where we all come from. Start there.
Speak up, brother, I'm sorry.
I said we all start back at the base. Then just bring it forward.
Start back to the base. You're talking about going back to your history,
Yeah.
okay? Anybody else have an opinion about where we would start? Yes.
I would start with educational foundation, informal and formal education. Everything else can spread out from it. You know, if you actually sit there and work strictly on the mind,
Right.
eventually everything gonna come to light. Eventually they will develop that self-esteem that it was aspiring.
So you do it with boys on the town to 10 concept, basically. You just, okay? This brother and that brother. Go ahead.
Just to expostulate on his point, I would start with education too, because even though this is a capitalistic society, which pretty much says money has an ultimate say-so of how things go down, it took a certain type of knowledge, took a certain type of education to form a system that was based on something that was created by man who did money. So even though money rules it, education provides the instruments necessary to play the song in which a capitalistic society wants. So I would go with it.
So you go with education. Okay, brother, you hit your hand and I'll go to you.
I don't even think it's a class. I think it all starts with religion, family.
That's cultural.
Well,
That's
cultural, but I think it's a little bit slash.
You think it's what?
I think it's culture slash religion.
Okay, cultural slash religion.
If you put the man first, everything will follow. He'll help you out.
You mean if you put God first?
Yeah.
You said the man up there, really now. You're crossing me up now. You bring the man.
Little mix it up. I call him a man because, I
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Now that I know what you call him, I'll call him that too, but I just want to know who you call him, okay?
I put God first, even though there's struggles in education, money-wise, everything in the world, you pray, then you have that, patience in yourself, and you look at the bigger picture, and you be smarter in how you handle things in every prospect of life.
Okay, all right. I understand what you're saying. Yes?
Yeah, for me, I'll draw it out for it of science, science.
Okay.
But I would say political because, if you are in the political arena, you want to make a decision, you want to affect the lives of while from, because, you want as a politician and to be able to give people address issues, attack the issue up front, and, because one, if you come in the political arena and understand that, what you can attack the issue, you can start the social issue.
So you would be, okay, politics. Now, if you notice, we cut on almost every one of them. Education, business, money, okay? Politics, family. In other words, it seems to me what you're saying is there's so many diverse places to start that this body of men that we're talking about, black men, this body of intelligent, the boys coming through the institutions, okay, can plug in almost any place that makes a contribution. I mean, that's what I think I'm hearing. I think I'm also hearing a kind of like somebody said value system, how they live, the pattern of life. I think that kind of comes through in your selection. Okay? I mean, in your selection. Brother, you majoring in business?
No.
What you majoring in? Engineering. Well, that's, no, not. Okay, I'm gonna run it down to engineers make better prices coming out right now than most other occupations. And GM, and last time I heard GM, and Motors, Ford Motors, that's business. Okay? It fit his pattern. Okay? What's your major back there, bro?
Business management.
Business management. Okay? But he came over with education. Okay? Which is, what did you talk about?
Social.
Oh, social, right, okay. We tend to take what we have as our own value system and select outward, okay? But I'd like to ask you this, okay? Let's say that you got programs going on. How many of you know any programs that you're participating in that's mentoring young people right now? How many of you participating in mentoring programs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I said about 30 people in here. That's almost at least a third. What are you participating in? Huh?
So it's a big scholarship program, you
You
know,
go to middle schools and you, what? And you tutor the kids? Okay. Who else raised their hand over here? What are you participating in?
tutor the credit program.
Tutoring program?
We talk to kids about college and how to get
Okay, a tutoring program focusing on college. Who else put their hand up over here? What are you? Same. Who else?
the program I think
Okay, that's a little bit different than the tutoring program. Who else put their hand up over here? What about you? In the what? AmeriCorps. Tell us a little bit about. Okay, drug-free program. That's it. Yes, bro.
Right now, I'm interning in the county tracker probation. So pretty much what I do is try to predict that I'm not going to try to go back to school or give them the necessary research they need and to provide drugs, talk to a professor, being a role model or a mentor, pretty much anything that has to do with
Okay. Somebody put their hand up in the back. Yes.
Yeah, I just watch single parent children inside the neighborhood, and talk about my experiences.
You watch the single parent children in your neighborhood. What do you mean when you say you watch them?
Well, they come to what we do is we have dinner,
Uh-huh.
and then after we eat together, then we take the children over to daycare.
Oh, okay.
And then what we do is we talk about some of our own experiences.
All right.
How it's all accomplishment.
Okay. Who else in there? You do the same thing he does. Okay. Who else in there? Yes, brother.
Well, since I'm the vice president of the president, it's really his brainchild, so it's on the same brainchild that
Well, don't be sitting up here saying this thing, bro. Go ahead, explain.
Well, it's a couple of things that happened out there. One member of our organization, we started a program that's the ACE program, and that's cultural exchange, where you have different books that's written in different cultural perspectives.
Right.
See, we're in the rural area, we have to remind us of that. We're in the rural part of Minnesota, west central Minnesota.
Okay.
North Minnesota. So there aren't too many, well, there maybe like 5 at the most, minority children in those communities, in all the surrounding communities.
5?
Maybe like 5 at the most.
Okay?
So we actually go out to the school, just in the age program, we go out to the school and read to the white kids, different stories, different cultures. If we were reading from a black female, then we get a black female read. Hispanic male, get a Hispanic male read. To combat, the stereotypes, just whatever misconceptions they may have about it. And we do a very program. We try direct reach out program. I still don't want to fun things like that.
Okay. That sounds like a very creative effort and something that, just as I would respond, I would think that you'd want to write up and send in to different black media, magazines, and sources to spread that concept. I haven't heard of that particular concept. That's kind of a reverse flow. In other words, we're talking about helping our own in mentoring, but here we are in a process where you're helping people to understand us and relate to us, which builds a bridge, which we definitely need to do. So, I mean, I would give some thought to how you get that out in some publication and describe it. I'm serious. I think it has some merit. Let me ask you this, because you see, it's very important that we understand that we have the responsibility as black males in the black community to take the initiative for leadership. Okay? To take the initiative for leadership. They just gave an example. Can you tell me what procedure, what units in the black community you use, what units you use in order to develop any kind of a leadership program? What do we have that's natural that just about any community we go into, we can rely on starting it as a building block? Or do we have anything? Yes? What's the thing right on? The church. You know? I mean, I tell people I'm not very religious, I'm spiritual. But you notice I thank God when I got up here for us to be together, because I'm spiritual and I believe in God. I have to be a son of a minister, grandson of a minister, nephew of a minister, and so forth. I said they need a warrior, that's why I didn't become a minister. But the fact of the matter is that the church is the unit by which we can use. How can you link up with, what procedure would you use to link up with, and how many of you have linked up with the church in developing programs in leadership in your community? Anybody? Yes, sir. You mind me ask what that denomination? It's interdenominational. Is that here in this country or in this state or right in Minnesota? Okay. Okay, that's right here in Minnesota, 17 Lake Street. Anybody else? I mean, you mean to tell me that we don't utilize what we have as our basic, in our community, there are always three things I can find. The church, the liquor store, and what? That's right. Okay, the pawn shop. Now they might throw a little beauty salon over there someplace else, but the fact is, I got those liquor stores and those churches, okay? So I know if I'm gonna do any kind of community work at all, I'm gonna find a way to go to the liquor store and say, you gotta give me a contribution. That's the business. Okay? You don't give me no contribution, I'm gonna see you ain't selling alcohol. And then I'm gonna take that over to the church and say, we're gonna put on some kind of program in the church basement, and we can pay a little of the electricity bill because we got a donation from the liquor store. Okay? The pawn shop, you have to figure a way to work it in. Or what I'm trying to tell you is, You know, I'm asking you what resources, how do you tie those resources up? We've had only one person who's talked about it. I'm wondering, do you have time? How many of you are full-time students in here? Okay, hands down. That's most of you. How many of you feel you have time while you're a full-time student to help approach developing leadership in your community here or at home? Okay, about a third of the ones that went up before. So are we saying here, the other 2/3, that when you get time, that's when you're going to be more sensitive to developing leadership? I mean, I just want to know what the message is that I'm getting.
The reason I raised my hand, because the other question that was what I do first, and you never got to me. You worked on the self-concept first. What I like to do is finish up in the master's program over here and get a doctoral in education and counseling. And I intend to write a book. And the first chapter is going to be about the self-concept, the self-perception and what one is of ourselves. That's the most important story. Once you have a healthy self-concept, things that don't go your way is understood a lot better. So from there, chapter 2 to chapter 3 would go into how to study, and the last chapter would be how to write research papers, which is what I'm going through right now at this school. So I gotta write everything, man, I gotta write, you know? So I want students or people to know that don't feel bad just because the person didn't view the world the same as you did on a test and you're developing what you see. And that's not a good reason to quit school. But a lot of students are being discouraged from getting C's when they feel as though they should be getting B, or they feel as though they should be acknowledged when they're not. These are students attending predominantly white colleges. Then from there, they get to quit school, but they don't ever go to a historically black college, where I graduated from, because they feel as though college is hard. I mean, it's
What college, what black college you graduated from?
Southern University in New Orleans.
Oh, okay, New Orleans, okay, all right. Is that, let me ask the question, because maybe the brother is touching on something that's very significant. How many of you feel that, as a student, as a black male student in the school, that you are not getting what you deserve? You're not getting the grades, and I'm not going to ask a particular course teacher. How many of you feel that you're not getting the grades that you deserve?
I don't always get knowledge.
No, I mean overall. I mean, I'm not saying all.
Okay, but one instructor, which is at 30%, will give you half.
Okay. Let me see your hand. Hold them up. Those that feel that they're not getting the grades that they deserve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'd say about a third. Okay, now let me break it on down to you, because you know, like, you gotta understand something. All right. Where we are now in 1999, we've been there in 1899, and we're there in 1799. Okay. What I'm saying here, and listen very carefully. Okay. We are encountering as black folks the same kinds of intense racial attitudes about your capabilities that my grandparents, your great-grandparents, your parents encountered before you. The faces, there are 3 trillion faces of racism. And you probably will never have seen the last one. Your grandchildren never will too. You have always heard the statement, you gotta be better than the next person up there if you're gonna get recognized and so forth. It's true. The reason I'm saying this is because you gotta understand something, all right? There is a no alternative door there. No way. When I say no way, there's no way to change that. How many of you heard of Michael Jordan? I figure we up in Minnesota, we heard of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got cut off the basketball team when he was in high school. Y'all know that? Because he was not, quote, good enough. Okay? He developed the habit of shooting 350 jump shots every day from that point on. 350 jump shots every day. That's a lot of jumping, a lot of shooting every day. Now, I don't tell you where he ended up. We see where he ended up, okay? I say that because, you see, you got to understand something. Grades are not indicative of your ability to succeed. Believe me, grades, I'll say that again, are not indicative of your ability to succeed. There's no one-to-one correlation with grades and success. Take it from somebody who's been out here in all this mess, okay? There is not any one-to-one correlation between all A's and success, or all B's and success. Understand that. When you get out of this academic, all grades say is that you were able to pledge the institution and meet the expectation of each particular instructor that you had. Meet the expectations of each particular instructor that you had. That's key. Okay? Now, I'm going to be quite frank with you. If I'm sitting in a room with students, I'm going to gravitate to the black ones closer than I am to the white ones. I am going to do that. I'm going to be guilty of that. I'm going to argue that there's nothing wrong with that, because there's an affinity that I feel with those black students that I don't feel with the other students that I ain't never been. Okay? If nothing more, I might see someone there and say, I want you to join my fraternity. I'm a Q. Q gentleman, then a Q dog. However, the fact is that those students meet my expectations because I'm a teacher. When you come out of these universities, the slate is blank and clean. I don't care whether you're a C student, whether you're A student. The race just begins then. Okay? Then is when you got to produce. You got to do one thing I call hustle. Okay? Now, how many of you understand what I'm saying now? Because you see, the C don't mean nothing. Tell you the truth, paper don't mean nothing. It is a key that opens a door. You know, people say, you got a PhD? I say, yeah, that's my key that opens that door. Now, once I step through that door, it's on me. Now, if I didn't have that paper, I couldn't step through that door. But believe me, once I step through that door, I'm hustling. I am hustling. And that's what the brothers have to understand. You got to hustle. You can't let your image, your self-image, be determined by some ink on a piece of paper put out by some dude or some woman who, as a matter of fact, might know everything about that particular area. Okay? And they got their own prejudices on that. But they have placed you in a certain level. Can't do that. So I'm glad that brother brought that up, because you see, it's important for you to know your own self-worth. I'll give you a little, go ahead.
I'd also like to point out that, according to researchers, 80% of federal judges, 80% of doctors, and 75% of Army officers graduated from historically black colleges first before they went on to graduate school. So what that told me was that if you were to go to a historically black college, you got a positive self-image first, and your grades won't be as hard to earn, but you're going to learn the same. In predominantly white colleges, you may deserve an A and get a B. You may deserve a B and get a C. You may graduate with a 2.7, 2.6. You need a 3.0 in order to get to graduate school. I mean, the science is there. The science is there. I mean, so the class is wondering how could the percentage so high for students graduating from historically black colleges. That is it. You get to 3.0 over there. At down in white, you basically get 2.9, 2.8, 2.6. Then they tell you about the 3.0 you need in order to get into graduate school. I mean, the science is there.
There's another sign there, brother. Let me tell you right now. Pick up on that. You go to a black college. There's a lot more socialization that takes place, a lot more knowledge, getting to know people, getting to know each other. You'll find this is very true. It's not only what you know, it's what? Who you know. What? Who you know. Right. So guys that come out of Morehouse, they come back to Chicago, they find out that the chief boy is downtown, you know, he graduated from Morehouse 3 years in front of him. Hey, they match it up. Networking, 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 networking. Whereas when you go to Harvard and Yale, after going there, you got additional network if you're able to get through that, but you might not be able to use the system as well as you can with brother. Okay? And I'm pointing that out because you got to learn something. It's not just what you know, it's who you know. All right? If I were to listen to my teachers when I was in school, in my 3rd grade, I learned I couldn't write because the teacher couldn't read what I was writing. In my freshman year in college, I would have learned that I couldn't pass English. Now, somehow or other, with all that, I still became an author, wrote proposals, owned 5 companies. So that ain't bad for a person who couldn't write. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I don't usually reveal that because that's not something to be proud of. But, you know, when you say, well, hey, she failed you. Okay, but that was a racial thing. I played basketball at KU and I was the only black on the team and I also was seen out with a white girl. So therefore, there was some other implications there. You understand? The bottom line, though, is that I did become an author. The bottom line, though, is I did learn how to write proposals. Okay? A very, you know, a seldom known fact. Everybody knows President Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States, right? You know that? Lincoln was the 16th president. He's on all our money, right? On the penny. Take a penny sometimes, and a nickel, and a dime and a quarter, and put them head up. See what you come up with. What? He's the only president looking out the way, right? In other words, they all turn their back on him. Is that right? Lincoln lost more political races than he ever won, but he did become 16th president of the United States, and he's on the money. And his back is turned on all the others. What's my point? My point is, if you've got self-worth, and we are an endangered species, I hate to turn it into that, but we are an endangered species. If you've got self-worth, then you can, okay, succeed without using these ideas about, well, I'm an average student, I get the grade, and so forth. Okay? Michael Jordan might not wanted to jump 350 times a day, but if he knew he was going to end up where he did, he jumped. Let me ask you, how many of you ever heard of a lock-in? Has anybody heard of a lock-in at schools or at churches? Yeah. How many of you participate in a lock-in? Would somebody tell me, back there, gentleman back there, would you tell me what a lock-in is?
Are you referring, when you say lock-in, are you referring to like a sit-in or taking over a building and shutting it down for direct action purposes?
No, I'm not talking about that kind of lock-in. That's an Alcatraz hook dog. That's close to it. This gentleman back here.
I'm talking about a social gathering.
A what?
Social gathering.
Social gathering? Yeah, come on with it.
Whereas when you get everyone together, you lock the doors, don't let them go out till the morning.
Right. Okay. We started that in my frat in Chicago. We call it a lock-in. We take the kids in. When I say kids, again, I'm only 30, but they come in at 7 years old to about 15. Okay. We have mattresses later on the gym floor on Friday. Okay. 10 o'clock that night, the door is locked. Okay? Nobody comes back out of there until Sunday. Okay? Now we got young bloods in there, young brothers. We're playing table tennis. They're shooting pool. We're talking, we're rapping about what's going on in the city. Nobody leaves. You can go over there and go to sleep if you think you can with all that. You know, we've had as many as 300 in a building. Lock-ins. That's a movement that's starting. That's not only starting in Chicago, it's been on the East Coast, it's starting other places. You ought to consider passing on some of that skill, some of that knowledge that you got in your lock-ins. And that's the reason I wanted to transmit that, because we're having to develop additional creative methods to build leadership today. We can no longer, name me a Martin Luther King today. Okay? Name me a Malcolm today. I mean, we got one of these. I ain't talking about one of these now. I'm talking about ears. I don't mean the ears like President Clinton. I mean ears. Real ears. Yes, sir.
Brother just passed,
Huh?
Brother that just passed, correct?
Yeah, the brother just passed, but not, ain't a Malcolm, ain't a King. Okay, I'm talking about, when I say that, I'm talking about individuals that have affected masses at one time. I'm not talking about in segments. I'm talking about masses at one time. And I'm not taking away from that, brother. I'm trying to get to another point. That's what I'm trying to do, yes. Farrakhan, about the closest you're going to come, and the only way you're going to get there is if they kill him, then they'll get there. Okay, I'm not trying to be funny. Farrakhan is about the highest approval rate among all black communities than anybody else. Okay? Okay, so listen, Farrakhan. And the minister, is a very sincere person. I know the minister very well. He was, unfortunately, I used to date one of his daughters. He has 9 children. Don't put the minister down. He got 7 beautiful daughters, okay? And 2 sons, all right? And he's very down to earth. Very down to earth in conversation. He is about the closest. He is about the closest. But what I was trying to get to is the point that we are now in an age where there's not personality leadership. We're now in an age where there's not personal, individual leadership. We're in an age where there's multi-leadership, where we have to have a lot of us. And nobody is outstanding. Okay? Nobody is outstanding. We're all important. Okay? They killed off, whoever this mystical figure is, I'm not trying to point my finger at anybody. They've killed off those strong personalities that had mass effect. But it's like mercury. When you hit mercury, what happens? Breaks into small balls. So we have all of us being small leadership units. People that are trying to work within their own capacity. And that's what the mass effect is. That's why you're here today. That's why we think that, through your efforts of working with the younger guys. You see, one of the problems that we have with the older guys, we don't want to pass off information to y'all before, because we've been trained not to. Okay, there was only one that could sit in the room. Only one professor in this department or university. Okay, can't have 2 of us now. 2, so I have to make sure that he don't get too educated. When we get my job, if I get ready to retire, I ain't gonna help him out too much. We were trained that way. So some of that has to come from you younger guys to us and say, look here, stand up. You've been bending over so long, you don't know how to stand up straight. I don't mean to be disrespectful. But that's what's happening, okay? You got to come in. I'm serious. Sometimes we learn from the younger guys too, okay? I'll give you just one little story. There's a guy in Chicago who's a great developer. His name is Dempsey. I tell him about it all the time. Dempsey has written several books. Some of you might have read some of his books. But Dempsey is a big developer. And back in the 60s and 70s, Dempsey was making a lot of money. I didn't know what a developer was. I didn't know how you spell it. I looked it up in the dictionary. I couldn't figure out how you develop housing. And so a couple of us went to Dempsey back in the end, I think it was 1965. Yeah, I was in the carriage at that time, just pushing it. And I asked him, and I was serious. I said, look, I got my consulting firm. I'm starting. I was just starting on young blood at that time. But I want to learn how to be a developer. Because all these white boys doing development. That's what the money is. And then she gave me a book with a whole bunch of classifications about houses. It didn't make any sense. And he didn't want to teach us. Okay? He didn't give us another point. Then I learned from my father that he had let Dempsey build his church. And the apartment buildings across the street from him. I said, he done built my father's church. My father gave him the contract. And the apartment buildings across the street. But he won't let me know how you do it. Okay? Wasn't his fault though, because he was trained that way. He didn't think there was enough of a pie to develop other people to compete with him. Now, it might be hard for you to understand, but if you've been trained that way and been over so long, when you stand up, your back might break. And if he stood up, his mind might have broke, and you're going to take my projects, you're going to do this. So you got to go to older guys. And I say this in very sincerely. As young black men, you got to go to older men and say, look, you didn't get old by being stupid. Because when you see a black man who's in his 60s, 70s, 80s, he has whipped the system, if he's alive. Okay? Pick his brain. Learn from him. I'm serious, bud. Pick his brain. Learn from him. He got something that you need to know. If nothing more, how to live to be 70 years old. But you're supposed to die at 64.5, okay? 64.6. You know that. You're supposed to die before you get to Social Security. You understand? So I'm trying to tell you now, part of your networking, your grades are important, but part of your networking, going up to older black men, picking their brain, okay, and pass it down. Don't be chintzy. Don't keep it to yourself. Take that Saturday afternoon that you were going to be swinging anyway. Drop a couple hours off of it before time and share it with the younger guys. Can anybody tell me what you think has led to the present rate of destruction that we have among ourselves today, especially young black men? Gentlemen?
It's like an array of things. I would say.
Say what?
It's an array of things, a variety of things, like drugs. Like the brother said over there, low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem, drugs.
Vanity.
Socialization, probably self-image.
Self-image.
I think it's a breakdown.
Lack of belief.
Breakdown what?
Family structure.
Family structure, that's for sure. Yes?
Vanity.
Huh?
Vanity.
Vanity? Okay, can I get some more? Yes.
I think it is all real things. I agree with that, but I think everything starts out from self.
From within?
So we lost the concept of self. We don't know ourselves.
We don't know ourselves. Who we are.
We lost the desire to be black.
That's good to see. Something along with the talking about, okay, it's really not the concept of self, but in my mind, I feel like it's the concept of self within the community.
Yes.
That what it's in my mind, and I speak this from my upbringing and so on, and, but anyway, I mean, like, I was raised always being told about the community center. So like, come here and it's like, yeah, it's you, it's all you for you. So it's the self within, the successful self within community center. So I don't know.
Explain to me a little bit more about this successful self within a community sense. Now, that's a curve. You're going to have to lay that one out.
Okay, all right. I'm from Houston.
Okay.
And my upbringing is very traditional. My family is very traditional, Egyptian. We were brought up, always told, you always have to look back at who you are, family, God, all that stuff.
Okay.
And that's
All right, I see. That's an interesting perspective because it describes the crab mentality. How many of you heard of crab mentality? Okay? And the brother just described it. I never heard it put quite that way. Okay? I'm running a campaign for somebody right now in Gary, Indiana, Dr. Reynolds Smith, who's getting ready to replace the incumbent who happened to have lived through 2 black candidates last 3 terms ago. So we're going to replace him. But the fact is, there's a crab mentality there. And the brother just put his hands on it. We have to re-educate as we're also getting them registered to vote, because there is the self within the self of that community. The brother back there had his hand up a long time ago. Brother?
I would say material, materialism. I think it's kind of in line with what the brother back there said about Mankato. I just see that, okay, if you look at it, let's look at two different black men. The black man in the community and the black man in the middle or, upper class.
Right.
In both instances, I think there's just an overinflated sense of material possession. It's kind of like adopted from the European. We don't have a true understanding, like the brother was saying about how our own manhood. So we adopt that of the oppressor.
Of the oppressor.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
In that comes all of this, but I just wanted to contribute to the material part. Material possession. We may be broke. But we always want the best.
Right. We always want to
it's a Eurocentric mindset.
Right.
We allow others to define us.
We allow others to define us. And not only, how many of you read Franklin Frazier's Black Bourgeoisie? Well, maybe I'll how many of you read my book? I was so Franklin Frazier in this group. Franklin Frazier sold a lot of books on that Black Bourgeoisie. It is about just what you're talking about, brother. It's about materialistic concepts that black folks had gotten back in the 30s and 40s. It even breaks it down to, how the dark versus light, and, the best wife was light, and the best husband was dark, and professional. Breaks it all down. And the materialistic thing stands out just like all the famous. If you get a chance, check it out. It was written, I think it was copyrighted in 1946 or 1949.
Can you say it one more time?
The Black Bourgeoisie by Franklin Frazier. Franklin Frazier. Brothers had his hand up over here. Yes.
Media/family forces. Lack of family force.
Lack of family force.
The media, how they portray us, and not giving us the kind of images on television and radio, and lack of family force in terms of when negative images from a screen, how the mother or father is not there to educate their kids, to tell them, the different aspects of positive and negative life.
Okay, now he's answering that the reason that we're having such destructive action between ourselves as black males, why the reason we're killing each other and taking our lives, is because of the family/life that we have with the mother and the father probably not being there. That's what you're saying, right? And the way that they show us on TV and so forth. How many of you think TV really does determine? How many of you think that TV, what we see on TV, really does determine the output of our actions? I just like to get an idea. Let me see your hand. What we see on TV does greatly influence what we do outside. 1, 2. That's pretty good. Half. What did you say?
I think
Wrestling?
Everybody up in here, after seeing Junkyard Dog, Hulk Hogan, and all them, we ran outside, saw body slamming each other. I know all of them did that.
Did y'all?
I know we all did that.
Well, now y'all got the governors that can beat the other 49 governors in the United States. I mean, you got that. The reason I'm asking about whether that really makes an imprint, because you see, it's important. This brother mentions that, the way that brothers are seen on TV, okay? If that is really affecting, if you're right, Where's the power in that formula?
But black people don't like to see those types of things.
Well, I didn't quite hear that. But what?
Black people don't like to see positive images. You take how many black people went to go see Boys in the Hood, then you take how many black people went to go see Tales from the Hood. What was the one that had the black people?
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the
Crypt.
The Hood, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Tales from the Hood. Ever seen it? Where they had the black man in the deprivation chamber and made him accountable for all the people that he killed in drive-by shootings. And
Tales from the Hood.
Data does support what this brother is saying. If you look at certain pictures like Soul Food, okay, it's a nice picture. Soul Food is on. New Jack City, boom. Okay. You look at what is it? Dead presidents, boom. Huh? President dead president, whatever that is. Yes. Yes.
Oh, no, I was just waving at my cousin down there.
You were what?
I was just waving at my cousin down there.
Oh.
I think all that is baloney, man. All that TV or TV influencers youth and all that stuff. Because I think it all starts with the family, man.
Starts in the family.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know how you're raised. If you're raised right with right kind of morals and you know and ethics and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
I can go out and talk about the hood or whatever, and be like,
hey, did you actually see all the
All right, now wait. Now one thing about this is interesting, okay? I'm glad the brother took the opposite position, and we got to let the brother say it before we say get him, okay? That's because he's got something to say now. Let's hear it. Go ahead.
no, I agree that some people let it affect them, right? And it's all, I think it's all about how you. I feel I was raised with success, you know. So, a lot of y'all. So, I mean, like, I know all y'all go to movies, so like, you know, Boys in the Hood right now.
I ain't gonna go out and shoot no
I'm
bag.
gonna go out and start because you're raised right, you know, you raised with success.
So your point is, depending on where the seed was raised, as what the plant will project above the ground. That's what you're saying. You're saying that if it's a tomato seed, it's going to produce tomatoes. If it's grown up, and you laughing, you know, and you also said if it's a weed seed, it's going to produce a weed. Okay? Anybody else in here feels like this brother right here? Well, he ain't wrong. Wait. All y'all feel like this brother right here?
As much as I don't like to, say bad things about rap and whatnot,
Yeah.
but if you sit there and look at the trends that rappers sit there and start, whether it's let's say something nice, like dancing trends. They saw that's why it's spread. But most of them talk about, I need this type of car. See how many black people after a rap song come out and they introduce some new material in the black community, see how many black people go out there and do it. Tupac said, Alizé. How many, Alizé, how many black people start running out there? Gin and juice, Snoop Dogg and Dogg. Now these people didn't even know what type of juice they're supposed to put in gin. Just give me gin and juice. These people be like, what kind? They don't have gin and juice. Black people are influenced by the media highly, especially black men. Because that's the only thing that we can use to get black females most of the time. If the females control 80% of our action.
Now we get to the power.
80% of our action.
Now, truthfully, brother, test us when we get to the power. Yes, brother.
Like I said, I agree with Matt. No matter how much rap music you listen to, how much media, it's all about how you was raised, man. The main reason about that is I'm protected. And when the police officer got shot, first you heard, like, the guy said Tupac influenced him. I mean, it just really just tore our whole town. Because, ooh, I mean, if you was raised right, listen to this music, you like, okay, it's just music. I'm not gonna go out and shoot this police officer. But I mean, it just ripped our entire town up.
All the generation that's from the kids raising kids, are we the ones that didn't have the proper?
Well, I'm saying,
we didn't have the proper raising to
go back to the family. You know what I'm saying? Reconstruct the family so we won't have kids. So
Let me get some other people in here because we got a lot of opinions and I want to get some of them in here. Let's start with bruh. We gotta go by these rules, so, okay, I'm gonna plug everybody. Okay, back here.
Like I said, I agree with this young man here. I mean, because growing up, we listened to all the music and everything, but my father, if I went out and my father, he did not spare the rod. That's one of the things I think is no discipline today. You know, if I went out there and I did something because I watched it on TV, I got beat when I got back in the house. So I think it is a family thing. It's how you're raised.
It's a family thing.
If your parents raise you correctly, raise you the best of their ability, then there's no way that you're going to be influenced by something you see on TV.
Okay, right.
I agree with the brother over here. If you look at today's rap, particularly the black female, always talk about how brothers don't respect them. You take the Foxy Brown video, you know, she's dancing half butt naked. I guess 5 years from now, that everyone's gonna be dancing naked on the stage. Just to get the point. And that's one of the reasons why the black men don't respect the woman. And that's whatever the goal that the black man doesn't have no home training. It just keep going on and on and on.
Going on.
Yeah.
I just, you know, it was cool that we had this debate. I mentioned media / family structure, so just to get my stuff clear, you know, because, you know, y'all gotta make me feel kind of bad because y'all thought I was like, just put the, you know, main emphasis on media. I said media / family structure because, you know, the family gotta be there to educate the kids when they watch things on television, you know, and without that, you know, that brings, that's just a part of the, you know, okay, no, I'm just making sure we're not asking.
Oh, okay. You want to get credit, make sure that everything's fair over here. This brother, I'll get around back over there. This brother, then I want to get some people that haven't spoken at all. At all. I don't think he's spoken at all. So first you, and then the brother over there.
I just feel like to try to pinpoint one reason would be kind of, to me, impossible. Because like you said, there's so many different things that go into this. Like you said, you can blame it on the media, but you got the family support. It's just, you know, you got the family support. The media has no influence on children. And then, and also, you know, you can see the guy driving around the car, but if there's someone telling the kids that, oh, that ain't right, he's doing that illegally, and I bet you he won't have that car 2 years from now. And it's not going to happen, but you can't really blame it on just one thing, I don't think. You can't even just blame it on just family support either. You know, there's
So you think there's more than just one cause? That might be a contributing cause? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That might be a contributing cause, but there's several causes. I can deal with that. In the back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can't pinpoint it to one thing, but a lot of it does have to do with miseducation of these children, and TV does that. And I got proof because when I went to Africa over break, I met a lot of names wearing like Tupac shirts, and they like, "What up, my nigga?" You know what I'm saying? Talking like, you know, people talk. They watch the shows too. They watch the Sinbad, the Cosby, all that face them, and they have all that stuff is portrayed, and they act that out as if it's real. And that happens here too, because not all families have a perfect structure where, you know what I'm saying, they're gonna tell their children everything they see on TV.
Right.
My parents, you know what I'm saying, but it's still a combination of the two. But you can't say media doesn't affect children.
It may not affect one person, excuse me, it may not affect one person, you know, through your own eyes. Let's broaden our perspective here and look at the reality situation. The question you asked would be, does it affect?
Right.
You know, it may not affect one person, but it affects us. And think about this. What's the closest thing we have is black entertainment television?
BET.
You know what I mean? That's not even ours. We don't control any media. The same people that control the media are the same people who.
Right. That was behind my question that I was asking who controls, because we don't control any of the media. We control some portion of one portion of this kind of thing. And if you looked at Black History Month, one of my friends, she and I were sitting up talking several nights, saying we would like for it, first of all, it's the shortest month of the year, and I'm trying to be funny, okay? But we would like to be able to see this more of black movies, more, have a choice, you know? I mean, not just one station, but maybe 3 movies. Because I was crazy about Darth Damage. I didn't even, when I came up, Darth Damage was the finest thing I could ever, I almost had our whole basketball team pick at the theaters because they wouldn't let me in with the team to see Darth Damage with Belafonte in, Carmen. Okay? Because our seats were filled in our section that they let us in. And so when I got up to the ticket window, they let half the basketball team in, and they said, we ain't got no more tickets. But then when the school walked around me, the white dude, he got tickets. I said, wait a minute. She said, well, your section's closed. And I said, oh, no. See, because this is the first black actress I had seen, live or dead. So, you know, I told them, y'all go in there and play no ball. So the rest of them came back out. But my real point is, that was my first experience. I had no TV. Okay? Now you got the knowledge and experience now where you know you can have a choice. I didn't know even that they existed. That's what we call moving up on people's shoulders. Okay? The brother here and the brother there.
Okay. I mean, I would say that, you know, for me personally, you know, growing up listening to Tupac, you know, with my type of upbringing, I did have a choice between right and wrong. But at the same time, you never use the 1 or 2 black people that have, you know, made a success and forget the masses who are still having a problem, you know, really truly understanding and digesting the propaganda that they receive. Yeah. And it's like, you know, the media's influence is phenomenal. You know what I mean? And we can't really talk about the breakdowns of family because this is a capitalist society where people work. So that portion of the day when you're not around your parents, you have an ulterior means of influence, which is a lot of time the TV. And our people watch TV more than any other race, culture, in this nation. You see what I'm saying? And we ask why do we have these adverse effects? Well, that is one indicator. It's not the only end-all, be-all indicator, but it is one indicator of the distortion that's going on in our community.
Right. Brother?
What I have to say is, even if the media has so much influence, let's say if it's negative, what type of people would be in the media that really have such negative influence?
Why can't people what?
What type of people in the media do we have such negative influence for? So all black people. So my problem generally is, if black people look into the media, they watch tele, they listen to gangster songs, etc., sung by the same black people. And what is all that about? It's like, can't we come to that understanding where we know the fact that something comes from our own kind doesn't mean that is the right stuff. We really needed to go and pick the right stuff. The gentleman was talking about he coming back from Ghana recently. Now it's true. I remember some time ago, about 5 years ago, Public Enemy came to Ghana. And you know what happened? Parents in Ghana, some of them went on demonstration because they said even the name seems to be so repulsive. Excuse me. A musical youth group that has a lot of influence on the youth. Look at the name itself, Public Enemy. To a typical African, there nothing good can come out of that name. Is that okay? This morning, a question was raised why African Americans, when they come to Africa, they seem not to be welcome or anything of that sort. The fact is not a matter of not being welcome. The truth is, we know as black people, the values we have are fundamental. Irrespective of where we live on this globe, we have values. And the values stem from family. Because we believe a strong family will have a strong influence on the community. Okay. And a strong community will have a strong influence on the nation. So if this type of basic and fundamental values seems not to be coming out, people will stand against it And they would rather encourage that you identify the true value that you are made of, not something that you adopted from somewhere. So even when you come to Africa and people say not to react to you the way you expected, it's not because they don't like you, but it may be because of some of the things that you pick up, which they know is truly not what you should pick up.
Some of the things that we pick up who are coming to Africa?
Not let's say even in general. I've had there's even a problem with Africans who will even come to Europe or in America to school or to live there. When they come back, the way they treat their own people, the way they look at them, the way they try to look down on them, etc.
So
goes out to
you're saying that the value system of the Western civilization, if I can put it in terms, the value system that we are immersed in diversity, that you come, let's say you come from Africa, you come from Ghana, wherever, you pick up some of those value systems, you go back, the people there really reject or react to you negatively because of those value systems that you bring back.
If they are not good and they know that...
Wait. If they're not good, the buzzword is good. What is, you mean, if it's not what they have as values? Instead of saying good, bad, I want to try to get this into a corner. If it's not their values, if the values that you bring back are not the values that they have there, then they're deemed not good, right?
Basically, yes.
And then therefore they react negatively to those people as if they're bad.
Not as if the people are bad,
but they have to be bad.
Making somehow the wrong choices. Now let me verify this issue. My earliest memory will go so back to when
I got to keep up with you. Say it again.
My earliest memory will go back to the time public enemy came to Ghana. There were students in school, and generally in Ghana, most of the schools, secondary schools or high schools, are residential schools. So students live on campus for 3 months, 3.5 months before they go back home. When you are in school, you are not supposed to get out of school unless with permission, reasonable permission, before you can get out of school. Yet students ran away from school. Some of them had accidents on their way. People died on their way just because they were coming towards public enemy.
Okay.
You know, so this is some of the things that
I can understand when, okay, I can, no, and I'm not diminishing what you're saying. Let me make that very clear. In fact, I'd like to have a whole different section of time to be able to discuss with you these things, because they would be enlightening to me, and maybe I could be somewhat informed of you. But I think, you know, it's kind of like, it's far out of our reach here for this thing, especially when we only have about 10 minutes.
They are like,
well,
their rap, I just want to say that their rap group is comparable to kind of like messages that King and X and August Garden, they are king of the group. They got the book by
I understand. But see, and I want to put a limit on this because see, I've also listened to Death Row Records. Okay? I'm not without some, but I mean, I'm still 30. I'm still 30, okay? I got that. But with me being 30, I put my foot a little bit in Death Row Records. You know, all right? I know what to make. All right? So we can have a whole seminar just on that. All right? Look, it's 3 o'clock, and I'd like to really go longer, but I've got to take over this next section, which is going to be on relationships. You're certainly invited to join it. I have to be fair. I can't take any more questions, because if I do, I got to take everybody's questions. That's how I am. So I cut to the chase. I'd like to take your questions, but since it's 3 o'clock and I'm supposed to be down there at 3 o'clock, 5 after 3. I have to go. I want to say one thing to you, brothers. Okay? There's a little story I say. There was a professor known as Joe Box Brown. He got shipped out of Mississippi in a box, and it took him 28 hours to travel all the way up to North to get what he called freedom. This is actually true. It's a true story. Okay? They did that. Somebody asked a professor once in class, called Dr. Du Bois, this is my own name for him, that knew all the answers to everything. So he decided they were going to trap him, trick him. They walked up to him, and they had a bird in their hand. And they said to the doctor, you know, like your black crops, I want to know if this bird is going to be live or dead when I open my hand. I want to know if you're going to be able to succeed in school, get out there and hustle and help some young black men come along. Same question, as if I want to know about the bird in the hand. Got me? You understand where I'm coming from? The professor being a little bit more astute than his students, not much, but just an inch, said the following words. The fate of that bird, the life of that bird, is in your hands. Because he knew if they squeezed the bird, it'd kill it. And they opened their hand to that flag. So I'm just saying one thing to you. And believe me, I am a black man, and I've been here at least twice times 30. I will tell you the truth. I ain't going no higher, because see, I had that age too, I was still saying. Let's see, I might have to change that age bracket real quick. Never, ever, ever give up. Thank you.
What's up, man? You get a hold of
That's what I'm saying.
What you doing? What's up? Take care.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, man.
I think that's all one.
Well, now I'm looking for the last.
So I'm gonna leave it alone. Ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all put them over there?
I made it the same.
But you know, like it's like, you know, nobody we wasn't like, I'll take it for the song. Well, I'm on the I could get more if I came up your way. Right, I was programmed like that. I just sit down all the time. And I start doing it. Back in my mind. Yeah, but see that one thing else you got, you got, I got 2,900. Now that's related that piece. So yeah, see what I'm saying? So we missing something. If I said, I'm just saying.
I was thinking more. How are things there?
How are things there? Yeah. What things do you mean? I mean, there's so much stuff I can talk to you about. I mean, things are generally, it's a nice place.
They got us like community.
We got about,
And the next generation.
So I got finished the base goals.
but then, yeah, the high one.
No, that's on hold because I mean my two boys.
Because north, right there. But still,
That's nice, but it's challenging.
Stop the movement, win against everything, and make sure that the next generation is we are black and brown. They made sure all of us in the city were off the side. It wasn't us, and it's still getting in the way of our problem. It's still always going to get us whatever we go for. You understand what I'm saying? And then until you decide,
Excuse me, where are you taking it?
Where's that? Picked it up. Right down you know, time you come out the little down and the little hole. Come home down and walk you cross the street.
That's why we become at work.
Well, I have seen it. You said it when you said it's like 400
But see,